Number 10. Love and Lies. This anime has a rather tricky plot for this list as it doesn't completely address the fact that the relationship going on with the main character ends well or not. But the reason why it made the list is because the two major beauties involved with the protagonist are both forced in one way or the other. The story takes place in a futuristic world and Japan, the country of romance, not literally, has implemented a system called the Red Threads of Science, which is a bunch of computers finding a life partner for you when you hit Sweet 16. For our protagonist, who considers himself average, this is the best chance at getting laid. Except he is in love with someone else who embraces him in the heat of the moment, except the protagonist's fated partner starts to find the guy interesting. Wrap your head around that.
今日この30分の思い出だけであと70年は生きていける気がする。
Number 9. Engaged to the Unidentified. This is one of those generic rom-com titles that have just a tiny little originality, and boom, everything about it just works out. Similar to the relationship we mentioned on this list, Engaged to the Unidentified focuses on a female protagonist, which is always great for obvious reasons. After learning that she had been engaged to a completely unknown individual, Kobeni Yonomori doesn't have a lot of choice in choosing her partner, but all that changes when her unknown fiancé stumbles upon her randomly and they start developing feelings for each other. The major sell point is that even though they consensually accepted each other, they did not have much of a choice if they chose not to do it. So another forced relationship that ended well. Oh, and just so you know, this couple does not fool around much. They grow towards each other pretty quick, unlike other rom-coms. Number 8. My Bride is a Mermaid. The plot of this anime is not something to talk about since it sounds like a cheap alternative to some awesome fantasy idea about a Disney princess movie. But all in all, the romance factor is still enjoyable. After Nagasumi finds himself drowning in the Seto Island Sea due to an improbable leg cramp, there is no one around to help him. Fortunately for him, a mermaid shows up and saves his life. Now, how probable is that? The mermaid named Seto comes back to visit Nagasumi and reveals that she is a mermaid from the Yakuza family. And it is later revealed that any human who finds out the true identity of a mermaid must be executed. In a frail attempt to save Nagasumi's life, an idea is proposed where Nagasumi is to marry Seto and spend the rest of his life with her. Nagasumi accepts without much choice, and from then on out, we get to see a romance story bloom between a human and a mermaid. Do I smell Disney?
Yeah, hello?
You better kiss your balls goodbye, cause I'm gonna tear them off.
Number 7. The Wolf and Black Prince. I'm pretty sure that the ladies are very familiar with this anime. It is, after all, a well-crafted shoujo story. In the modern generation of anime, The Wolf Girl and the Black Prince is one of the prime examples of genuine romance and proper development in terms of feelings. The story follows a high school girl named Erika who, under peer pressure, says that she has a boyfriend and is pretty chummy with him. After having no choice but to show herself and her lover, Erika snaps a random photo of one of the hottest guys in the school, Kyoya. Erika later explains the situation to Kyoya, who agrees to pretend to be her boyfriend, but unfortunately for Erika, Kyoya is a sadistic individual who treats her more like a pet, but not so much that it starts being an issue. Despite all this, they start to get attracted to each other and show real signs of affection.
あいつのこと好きなのか
京也くんには関係ないでしょ。
はっきり答えられないってことは好きじゃねえんだな。
Number 6. Arakawa Under the Bridge. The story revolves around Ko Ichinomiya, who is an arrogant businessman and comes from a very wealthy family. Because of his materialistic status, he considers himself to be an elite and believes that under no circumstances ever should be indebted to anyone. But nothing goes smoothly in anyone's life, now does it? Ko finds himself drowning in a river under the Arakawa Bridge, but is saved by a stranger. The stranger, who is a young homeless woman in a tracksuit, refuses to accept money from Ko, but still wishes that he becomes her boyfriend, forcing him into a relationship he never thought he'd have.
はあ、
ビーバーノンの。
誰ださらに風呂に入りたくなるような歌歌ってるやつは。
ビーバーノン。
Number 5. Wreck. Wreck is a relatively short anime with not much going around except for the mutual romance and pretty steady development. But if it's mutual, then why is it on the list of animes that are specifically for forced relationships? Well, the initial interactions of our two main leads are sort of forced. Our male lead finds himself on a movie date with a stranger who tells him not to waste movie tickets after he has stood up by his real date. He walks her home only to know that they live in the same apartment building. But the god of love pulls some strings and boom! The lady's apartment room has burned down. And she finds herself living with this new movie date without much of a choice in her hand. Number 4. Ino X Boku SS. This is an anime that isn't talked about more often but deserves more love than it gets. The story is of a young girl from a wealthy family named Ririchio Shirakiin who decides to move away from her family and live independently. But this is hard for Shirakiin because of her poor communication skills and foul mouth. In her new apartment, Ririchio is forced to live with a security agent called Soshi Miketsukami. After learning that all of her friends at the apartment and herself are half demons, Shirakin begins to open up to a bunch of misfits, including her handsome security agent.
好き。君が自分のことを好きになれなくても。
Oh, number 3. My wife is the student council president. This is the type of anime that you watch to get a beginning, a good story, and a quick closure without having to worry about fillers or any unnecessary drama. The story follows Izumi, a high school student, running for the position of student council president. But his election run is brought to an end when Ui Wakana, his rival for the post, announces that she will facilitate sexual activities, sex education, and then throws a bunch of condoms amongst the mass. Izumi settles for the vice president role but is then invited by Wakana to her house where she reveals that they are to be married due to some arrangement their parents made when they were drunk. You can see where this is going.
恋愛の自由化を強力に推進する。健全な心と体を宿す我々生徒に恋愛の自由を。
Number 2. Rent a Girlfriend. Now I know that this anime is ongoing and has not yet ended, but all the romances that the main character is experiencing in this anime are kind of forced. So we got Chizuru, who is forcing herself to be Kazuya's girlfriend. Sumi and Kazuya are forcing each other because it is not real. The same goes with Ruka, who is willing but Kazuya doesn't want her, and Mami's chances of being with Kazuya is almost non-existential. What I mean to say is, no matter who Kazuya ends up with, it is going to be a forced relationship that ended well. And finally, number 1. Nisekoi. When you have an anime title that translates to something like false love, you know there is going to be a lot of false feelings involved. The reason Nisekoi is the standout anime under this trope is because of the well-executed story given the hectic premise. The story follows Ichijo Raku, the son of a Yakuza family who is one day kneed by a girl from his school. After arriving at class, Raku learns that there is a new transfer student and she is the same girl who kneed him earlier. Later, Raku learns that he is to be engaged to the daughter of an American mafia family living in Japan in order to settle the fight between the Yakuza and mafia. But his fiancée turns out to be the same girl that kneed him earlier, and they are not off to a good start.
こちらがその桐崎千曽毛お嬢ちゃんだ。おめえら二人には明日から3年間恋人同士になってもらう。
So, that was our list. We know that we could not include some other titles that deserve to be here, but that is what the comment sections is for. So, go down there and drop a name that we have missed. This is Anime Ikigai, and we will see you in the next video.